Hello everyone, Mr. Nacho here, and welcome yet again to another bugs, exploits, glitches, and interesting mechanics video. We'll start off with a mechanic that was still not patched even after my last video, which is infinite ammo, infinite reserve ammo, and instant reload on any weapon that you'd like, which is basically you just use your weapon, and then you have to have the gunslinger as your primary archetype, and you have to have the quick draw skill. What you want to do is you want to press the skill and immediately dodge after you use it. And as you can see, we have infinite ammo in the reserves and we have reloaded our weapon. We can just keep doing it infinitely, and this is just something that wasn't patched, and well, this is clearly a bug. I hope that this will get patched. Use it if you will. I don't really judge you. That's okay. The next thing I wanted to mention is the eruption skill for the new Ritualist archetype. Clearly it doesn't do what it's meant to do, because what it says is creates a 1 meter explosion for 150 damage and all enemies within 15 meters. What it also says, it refreshes all current status effects on the target. And with the new amulet, it says applying or refreshing a negative status effect to an enemy increases status damage by 1% for 15 seconds. So as we can clearly see, if we use something like the Hellfire, we will be applying and reapplying burning on the enemy, which will increase the stacks of the Sinister Totem. But whenever we use the eruption skill, which will refresh all of the burning stacks, it will actually not give us another stack for the Sinister Totem. So let's have a look. As you can see at the bottom under my HP bar, we are going up, we are at 39 stacks, and whenever we use the ability to refresh, we don't get any more stacks. It just doesn't work. For whatever reason, it's just stupid like this and doesn't work at all. The next thing is still with the new items. It's the ring that's called Bitter Memento, and what it does is it sets 1% of the wearer max health as gray health. So as you can see, there is a tiniest bit of a sliver at the end of my HP bar. It's not red all the way, about 1% of it is gray. So right now, if we go and select the Ring of the Damned, which says increases all damage dealt by 10% while gray health is present, we don't get the icon for the Ring of the Damned, and it's not active at the moment, even though we have gray health present. How do I know it? Well, let's see the reprocessed heart. It will just convert 5 health to gray health, and it will actually trigger the ring. For whatever reason, this ring, the Bitter Memento, just doesn't work with this one. It's supposed to be a great synergy, but it just doesn't work at all. Now, the next thing that's absolutely borked, and it's mind-boggling that this is something that still is the case whenever the Ritualist came out, which is a dot-oriented class, is that the dots are not working correctly right now. I have asked an expert on our Reddit, which I invite you to, and there will be an invitation link in the description below. And he said that basically what's happening right now is that the dot damage is measured by total damage dealt applied over a time frame. Currently increasing or decreasing the time frame does not alter the total damage dealt. So by taking Ritualist trait or Timekeeper's Jewel, you are doing the same damage, but slower, massively reducing the dot DPS. So whenever we have the Ritualist equipped right now and no other rings and no other damage, we will be doing 27 dot damage for now. If we unequip Ritualist, we are doing 45 damage right now. If we equip something like the Timekeeper's Jewel, we are yet again doing 23 damage per tick. So the best thing that you can do right now is just equip the Band of the Fanatic to reduce the effect duration by 65%, which will just squeeze the damage and increase the status effect damage and make it deal the same damage just in the smaller time frame, so the ticks will be much bigger. So as you can see, we are doing 161 damage per tick right now. how this was omitted and not looked at properly with the Ritualist coming out, with the class that's relying on dots. I have no idea. This has to be fixed quick, or the class is just really not very playable. Because just the trait from this class, just by playing it, you are reducing your dot damage to, well, 48. This is just laughable. The next thing, it's quite an interesting mechanic, and it revolves around the atonement fold. It does quite a few things for us, really. Other than just applying bleed to us and increasing our crit chance, it can do a number of things. The first one would be it activates our Nightweaver's Grudge permanently. So we have permanent 20% crit chance and haste, because we are within 15 meters of ourselves all the time and we are bleeding all the time. So this will be permanently active. The next thing that it does is it actually counts for the blackout ring procs, and it will just give us stacks passively. Yeah, so as you can see, we are very slowly getting the stacks, but this damage actually does count towards the blackout ring and the reload speed. Yeah, as you can see, we just got another stack. So this clearly works. It's just not the fastest way of getting it. It's just a curious interaction. The next interaction that we have with the atonement fold, and this is actually extremely powerful and I don't think that it was intended, is with the hardcore metal band. As you can see, we have the 5 permanent bulwark stacks, because what it says is taking damage adds 1 stack of bulwark, which individually falls off after 10 seconds. We are getting a stack of bulwark every single second, because that's when the bleed ticks, and we'll just have permanent 5 stacks of bulwark all the time. So this is another reduction of 25%. So as you can see, we went from 37% to total DR of 53.4. This is insanely powerful when it comes to your defensive options. The next thing that I just wanted to mention and let everyone know is that the guard dog ability from the handler archetype, what it says is that it will just generate threat. Your companion, which is the dog, will generate threat, and what it means is that the enemies will be more likely to attack it, but it only applies to basic enemies and elites. It does not apply to bosses at all. For whatever reason, the bosses will just ignore the dog whenever the dog goes down. It's just because of some AoE or damage over time was applied to it, but they will just not focus on the dog for whatever reason. If you want the boss to focus on something, you are better off going with the invader, because the boss will actually focus on the decoys and not on the dog itself. For whatever reason, that's just how it works. The next thing is, again, a new item, which is called the Ring of Infinite Damage. And what it says is it increases your fire rate by 8. 8 what? I just thought that this was a flat 8 points of increase. So let's say that this has 9.5. So this would be then 17.5. But no, that's not how it works. It's just 8%. It increases your fire rate by 8%. This is all that there is to it. This is not really infinite damage in my understanding, but well, just do with this information as you please. The next thing is just something that I think is quite fun. This is the Burden of the Audacious and the Ring of Omens. And what it says that evades cost 18% of max health as gray health instead of stamina. And this says that it decreases all healing by 50%, but perfect dodges heal for 20% of max health. So whenever you are perfect dodging, you get the dodge for free. The next thing that is, well, quite weird, and I don't think that it was intended, even though it says exactly what it's supposed to do, is the new ability, again, from the Ritualist called Death Wish. And what it says, it will drain 300% health over 20 seconds, and it will increase your damage by 35% and grant you 10% base damage dealt as lifesteal. So whenever you activate the ability, you can see that it will actually just drain your health extremely quickly. You can't heal it with Relic and will just die right here. But whenever you are using this ability and playing as handler, or you just have the trait kinship maxed out, whenever you use this ability, it will just do baby damage to you, and it will get probably healed back extremely quickly if you just have points in regrowth or triage. You can basically just ignore the side effects of it, as it will not really take too much of your HP. It was like 20%, not really even 20% of my full HP. The next thing is the Energized Neck coil. And yet again, this is something that's related to dots, and it's borked right now. It was working extremely well, maybe a little bit too well because they hotfixed it. But right now, the added sentence to this necklace that wasn't there before is that each target can be affected once every 5 seconds. Previously, before the patch even came out, before the DLC came out, you could apply different status effects and have the enemy explode. So whenever you applied bleeding, it exploded. Whenever you applied corroded or overloaded or burning, it would just explode. But right now, it can only be affected once every 5 seconds, no matter what status effects you are using. So the best option for it is just to use one status effect, and it will just still explode every 5 seconds. There is no need to apply more than one status effect to have the Energized Neck coil explode more times. It should be that each target can only be affected once every 5 seconds per status effect. So whenever you apply a different status effect, it should still explode. Right now, the Energized Neck coil is much weaker than it was before the DLC came out. The next thing, again with the Ritualist, is the skills of Ritualist don't really seem to be affected by skill damage at all. Truth be told, they don't seem to be affected by any damage at all. So what it says here, it will be dealing a 1500 base damage and lasts for 20 seconds. So whenever we equip something like the Ankh of Power, which grants 15% increase to all damage, it still says 1500 base damage. I don't know why this is the case. The same thing can be said about the eruption skill. It says that it will explode for 150 damage, and whenever we unequip the Ankh of Power, it's still 150 damage. Either the tooltips are not working and they are not displaying the correct values, or you can't buff skill damage of the Ritualist at all. I don't know which it is. I haven't really tested it in depth that much. The next thing that I wanted to mention is quite widely known, but I just wanted to mention it for the sake of it, is that the Extender Mutator, what it does is it says increases magazine capacity of this weapon by 40%. And whenever we apply it to a weapon that is a double barrel and it has 2 ammo, you will actually increase it by over 40%. You'll give it a third round. And the same thing happens for the double barrel shotgun, the handgun version. And I don't know why it is. It just increases normally by 40%, but in this case it increases by 50%. And here is a next thing that's extremely sad to me because I like playing with pet builds, is that the familiar mod will actually kill all of your other summons. I don't know why it's friendly firing. I don't know why this is. It's just a incredibly good mod by itself. It's nice to have a summon, additional one, but it will just kill all of your other ones, so don't use it whenever you have your dog out or whenever you are playing summoner and you have your other summons out that are melee, because it will just delete them. The next thing I wanted to focus on is the discrepancy between the descriptions of the Nightweaver's Grudge and the Ahane Crystal. It's just something that you have to know by heart or that you have to test yourself to know, because it doesn't tell you anywhere. But what they say is that gain the benefits when within 15 meters of an entity suffering from a status effect. And what Ahane Crystal says is that it will give you 5% additional damage for each status effect the target is suffering from. So they basically all say status effect, but they work differently. For example, Nightweaver's Grudge will proc whenever something is slowed, which a honey crystal will not. A honey crystal will only give you 5% extra damage for the dots that deal damage. So for burning, corroded, overloaded, and bleeding. These are the only 4 that will actually activate the Ahane crystal. The next thing I wanted to mention is the blood draw mod, which basically just shoots out chains, pulls enemies toward the caster, and applies bleeding to them. For whatever reason, this also counts as an explosion, so whenever you use it with the detonation trigger and the Stone of Malevolence, you will get the benefits. So it will just explode the target and apply burning as well, and the elemental damage will generate more mod power for it. Yeah, so as you can see, it's both burning and bleeding right now, and it exploded. So for whatever reason, that's just how it works. And you can see that the mod is generating back up. We got about a quarter of it just because of the Stone of Malevolence. And the last thing that I wanted to show you is the Solarity Stone. It double dips with itself, and what it says is it increases consumable and relic speed by 20%. But because the relics are both a relic and a consumable, it will actually increase the relic use speed by 40%. And we can easily check it just by looking at the stats. So as you can see, this is 40% right here. Consumable use speed is just 20. Whenever we remove it, we have no relic use speed at all. So this is all just from the Solarity Stone, all 40%. So this would be all for the glitches, exploits, interesting mechanics and bugs that I have managed to find. Did you find any other ones? Please let me know in the comments below. I will try to make an updated version whenever a new patch comes out. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for all of the support that you've shown me. I love you guys and have a great day.